Hey there, friendlies. Here's the second attempt at this live stream. So I hope you guys who were trying to listen in on the other one, see what I'm doing here and swing on by. What I want to talk about tonight is what I'm calling old-fashioned pursuits. What do I mean by that? I mean, while I'm talking to you, I'm just going to check my channel to see that this is actually, yes, this is actually working, it seems. Okay. Well, rats. Hi, Grace. How's it going? Welcome to the rebooted version of this live stream. I don't know what was happening with that other one, but anyways, there we are. I even opened my beer on screen and didn't get it everywhere. So I hope that, hey, Black Dog, how's it going? I hope that all those guys and gals who were hanging on my non-working live stream will be able to find their way over. So I guess maybe I'll just pour the beer. The beer I got tonight is Bière de Chalet by L'Espace Public, which I think is a cooperative. Bière de Chalet essentially means cabin beer up at the cabin. Cette bière acidulée. So they say it's an acidy. I know. I don't know what sour, I guess. Was was aged in a Merlot barrel for 3 months. No, for 3 seasons. And a bunch of other blah, blah, blah. Let's pour it and take a look. And then we will get to the discussion about the old-fashioned pursuits. There we go. So this is a 5% and it's 500 milliliters. Let's give it a quick taste. Oh, that's a sour, all right. Whew. Oh. Fortunately, I like sour. Whew, that's not what I was expecting. Okay, I got to explain something to you guys. We don't have a fridge right now. Our fridge went on us 2 weeks ago, and Samsung, no, not Samsung, the company that Samsung has contracted to repair their stuff here can't seem to get us parts. Yes, that means we've started the school year without a fridge. Kids' lunches is going to be an adventure from here on out, I think. Oh. Anyway, so back to what I was talking about. And again, I'll just say I hope that everyone who was trying to listen to the live stream that didn't work can find their way over here, because it looked like there was a bit of a crowd brewing up there. So yeah, what I want to talk about tonight is what I'm calling old-fashioned pursuits. The genesis of this idea was, it's funny because in the other live stream I said that I was shaving this morning, but it was last night. I was shaving, and I hadn't shaved in like 4 days. So even with a straight razor after 4 days, that can sting and pull just a little bit. But I was thinking about, and I shave with a straight razor, and there's no real reason why that should be considered inherently, look, I have a baby, okay? Sorry about the hat. There's no reason why that should be inherently old-fashioned, really. Those who are making straight razors today are one-man shops or like really high-end smiths and stuff, but there's nothing inherent in the technology itself that marks it as being historical. There are other technologies we use for shaving which are very modern, but that doesn't make them any better. The reason I started straight shaving wasn't because I wanted to be Mr. Renaissance man or anything like that. It was because all those multi-bladed monster cartridge razors, I have very sensitive skin, and they were just leaving me like red and blotchy and red. And so that and a desire to not be throwing cartridge after cartridge into landfill every year made me try out the straight razor. And the thing about the straight razor is it takes you about 150 shaves to get it down, right? So you got to be prepared for some nicks and slices and not be scared off by that. Be like, okay, this is just part of the learning process, you know? But anyone can do it. You know, at one point, even the village idiot could shave with essentially a knife, and evidently, not all villages were missing their idiots because there are enough idiots in the world right now that they clearly did not get taken out of the gene pool. Um, so I, anyway, I'm not trying to deep dive into my straight shaving. I'm just saying that that was what I was doing when this idea kind of popped into my head, because I then extrapolated outwards. And I talk a lot about liking old-fashioned workmanship, old-fashioned methods of doing stuff. I'm not socially old-fashioned. You know, it's not going to end my world if Camille comes home with a girl one day. You know, I mean, romantically. You know, I'm not like get off my lawn and all that stuff. What I mean is, I have an appreciation for old-fashioned ways of doing certain things, and it's not fed by a desire to move back into the 50s the way it is for some people. Not everyone, but some people. It's this is powered by a very innate, shouldn't have used very there. That's grammatically horrible. An innate and deep fatigue I have for buying stuff that I know is going to let me down. You know? And some of that stuff is expensive as hell. Technology, this computer I'm on, this Hackintosh, it's full of top end parts, and it lets me down all the time. Excuse me. The more modern the gadgets are or vehicles are, the more often you get let down. We've got like an expensive freaking vacuum by Dyson that just we're never buying another Dyson. Or let's just say I will be very resistant in the future. This fridge I'm telling you about, that just isn't working right now. Second time it's had this failure in a year. In non-COVID times, we can get parts, but right now everything is backordered and blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, we spent $3,000 on a very high-tech fridge and it's not working. I'm spending like $8 a day on ice and throwing it into a cooler. We may as well be living in a tent. You know what I'm saying? Oh, so sour. Much like my mood. Oh, let's be honest, much like my character. Oh, I like me some sour though. Hamza's here. I was going to talk about you tonight because I was going to say, for anyone who's wondering where Hamza is, I think you have a new job, right? Is that what you said? And that's why you weren't around lately. Yeah, you know what? Let me pay attention to who's hanging with me. Simo, of course. It's constant as the Northern Star. One of the most helpful mods I have. Whenever I talk about something, he's like putting the URL up for you guys, so I appreciate that. Tyler's here, very interesting guy. Also another helpful mod. Grace, excuse me. Oh, that beer. I always like seeing Grace's name pop up on the side there. Black Dog, you got a lot of interesting stuff to say, so I'm glad to see you here. Tenenbaum, of course. Hey, how's it going, man? Tenenbaum, I think, understands my liking for old-fashioned stuff because of his taste in tents, but we can talk about that soon. Tyler, by the way, is probably the most old-fashioned young guy in terms of what I'm talking about here that you guys are ever going to meet, and I love that about that guy. And I kind of get the feeling that his wife is similar. They're a really cool duo. Black Dog is asking if I sharpen them myself. I have ruined my. I have 2 straight razors. I know a lot of people like to have 3 or 4, over the course of the week, but I just swap them one after the other, like one day, one the next. And I really ruined one of them sharpening, and it was kind of embarrassing because I'm not a straight up beginner sharpener, right? Oh, it hurts so good. But you need a very high grit stone, which I now have. Well, no, I don't have a stone. I have some of those that film with the micron blah blah blah. I don't know what it's called, but it's a film. I bought it at Lee Valley. It's sticky on one side, and you can get very very high grits. And so I was using that, but I'm having a hard time. It's a specific skill set, and some people like. And I was taking off the corners. I was wrecking the corners, so I stopped and took it. There's a guy, Albus, here in Montreal, who makes straight razors. They're a very modern looking take on straight razors, but his work is very good. And he also sharpens and he makes strops and stuff. So I just go to him. I think what I need to do is get a real beater razor and just practice on that, because I'm too afraid of ruining one of my two, especially because one of my razors is it's as old as Canada, like as old as the nation of Canada. I don't mean it's been here for 400 years. I mean, it's from about 1850, 1860. I don't want to ruin that one. I feel that when you have a good old tool like that, because let's face it, a razor is a tool. You're not its owner as much as you're its custodian. And so I can't wreck that one. The other one's just a Dovo from, I don't know, it's about 10 or 20 years old, but they're expensive. So if I'm going to practice on something and ruin it, I want it to be like a beater $5 razor, you know? Hamza says straight razor are the greatest. Then came safety razors. I also have a safety razor for when I'm kind of rushed, because I find that when you got one blade, it doesn't irritate the hell out of my skin the way like 5 blades. So yeah, I've got a straight safety razor as well. So I agree with you, Hamza. Simone thinks I should just grow a beard. I think that if I grew a beard, I would look like one of those fat bearded cartoon characters, like I don't know who I'm even thinking of, but nah. Dale, hi. Yes. The thing is, like they're very stylish. The technology is very sexy. They're very well designed. But the quality is just not there. And so I don't know. Meanwhile, my mother's had this. What the hell does she have? My mother's been using the same vacuum for like 45 years. It has not given up on her. Whatever the brand is, it's called Arius now. So I might look for one of those. But it's, as I said, the more complex the item is, the higher the degree of design, the more complexity is there, the more opportunities for failure there are. Don't go back to the 50s. If you're go back in time to the Middle Ages, you'll die from diseases that are easy to cure in a snap. So Simon is not wishing me well. Oh, I just lost my. I am late. Okay. Serge. I might not be on for long, but he's here now. Serge, man, how's it going? How's work and everything? You're getting up at 5. Yeah. Okay. Okay, Hamza, I get it. That, by the way, is, I think, the same problem as we're having. The problem is, like, it's a back panel that iced up, and when it ices up on these new fridges, you can't declog it. It's done because things break. So it's just very irritating. Hey, Fox is here. Oh, and I just somebody said something, so everything jumped. I lost my space. Okay. Fox it, man. How's it going? Uh, Grayson Fox talking. What's in the glass? I missed something. Oh, yeah. It's a bière de chalet, which means like cabin beer. It's it's supposed to be your vacation beverage. It's a sour. It's aged for 3 seasons in Merlot cask. It's really sour though. Mike with Mike, man. How's it going? Oh, Simone says, "Be right back." Okay, everybody say something nasty about Simone right now. Uh, yes, Tyler, exactly. But for some reason, I was doing that, and it's the corners, man, because they've got this really tiny radius, and when I do that, it was taking the radius out. Hey, up north of 60, how's it going? I missed your live stream with the lovely Viv the other day, and I think you just take them down when you're done. You don't leave them up. So, did I miss anything interesting? Of course, I missed anything interesting, but did I miss anything notable? Hike says, "I love leather straws, and I bet the swamp camper made one for me. I use it all the time. Yeah, I like it. I find that I have a hard time sharpening my straight razor, but I mean, I strop the hell out of it all the time, and that keeps it going for a long time. But even for items that I don't have any trouble sharpening. I still depend more on the strop than the stones, because I feel that, like, as soon as you're actually sharpening, your bona fide sharpening, you're removing metal, right? And if I want to be able to pass these tools down, I want to remove as little metal as possible. And if you can mitigate that by just being really good with your stropping, then why the hell not, right? Black Dog. He had a cheap straight, wouldn't sharpen it all, pitched it after 3 years. Sometimes the metal's just not great, Yeah. They'll just stop shaving. Fair enough. Fair enough. What does Hike say? Gotta have a beard. I look like I'm 12 when I'm clean shaven. I just wish the beard wasn't gray. Hey, Mallory's here. How's it going, Mallory? Talking about some old-fashioned pursuits. I started off talking about shaving, but we'll talk about other tools and stuff as well. And, if anybody wants to talk about how they love them some old-fashioned, I don't know, tools or vehicles or practices. I mean, I don't want to hear about you being all scared of modern gay people or anything like that. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking specifically, tools, fire starting, time-honored methods, simplicity and good workmanship. I love simplicity and good workmanship. I'm done like dinner with overly complex mechanisms. I'm done with stuff that's overly designed. I mean, I was a designer for a long time, so I grew up, professionally speaking, with a real appreciation of design. But if it doesn't serve the function of the item, then it's pointless. It's extra money you're throwing at it for nothing. Everyone's saying hi. Oh, it was Vivian's first stream and I missed it. Well, Tyler, the thing is, as I said, that one, that my razor from like 1850, I don't want to see that one as fundamentally consumable. Whoops, what did I just do? Hamza. Yeah, a good stone. A good stone is the difference between like real joy when sharpening and endless frustration. And yeah, as Hike with Mike says, less is truly more. I believe that more and more every bloody day. Every day, I'm tired of being frustrated with my fancy modern stuff that keeps failing on me, because it's expensive when something like that fridge fails. It's not cheap. When my every time my camera fails on something, it's like $350. That's your flat rate without anything funky happening. Hi, Mom. Talking about old-fashioned stuff tonight. Yeah, furniture making without fasteners. That's a good thing to talk about. Actually, I listened to the podcast by the guys who they do Mortise and Tenon magazine. Their podcast is the same name, but I think they're also the same guys who run Lost Art Press. Lost Art Press is full of stuff I fundamentally cannot afford, but I want all of it. They do like old-fashioned chair making. They do old-fashioned. They also have a YouTube channel, I believe. And these guys are working with old school hand tools. Period. They don't use power tools. Well, I don't know when they're not on camera or writing, but their thing is that their workshop is a hand tool only workshop. And I find stuff like that exciting. In fact, I will find the URL for Lost Art Press and put it up. Actually, maybe I'll drop it, unless if Simon is back and he wants to find the URL for Lost Art and then slap it there. It's exciting, man. Like these guys who work the old way, and the stuff they make is beautiful, and there's an organic character to it. I mean, organic in the dictionary term, not the sort of the funky new. This is an organic pear way. But like stuff made with these old tools and old methods, there's a beauty in the lines that you can't always distinguish, really. Like, you can't always put your finger on it. I think it's because it's never machine perfect. You look at the underside of the seat on a chair that was made by a guy working like the old-fashioned way, like they did like 200 years ago, right? Where everything was done really fast because you had to get 8 chairs out the door today. And so you look on the bottom of these, or the inside surfaces of a desk or whatever, and there's no perfect lines there. It's all just, it's rough, it's bumpy, because the outside had to be perfect, right? Today it's perfect, outside and inside, because we throw everything through thickness planers, right? Flip. So of course everything's perfectly straight, but that's not the way it was traditionally done. And I have, when I see a piece of furniture and I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, this is either really old or it's one of those funky new, like, made to look antique pieces. I look inside the drawers, or I look, on the, if it's got like, tables have a flat surface on top of like a box, I just look up under there. And if I see rough, then very often I'll just fall for the item right like that. Tyler has a black Jasper one too. From Gate. Sorry, I don't know this. Like, these two are having a discussion about obviously a very specific stone maker, but I don't know this maker. Can someone throw a URL up? Oh, Hike. You know it, man. Old-fashioned candle lanterns. I'm throwing up the link again if anyone wants to come on and tell me about their old hand tools or old camping gear. Hike, one day I'd like to have you on the stream one day. I know you're shy about it, so I'm never going to pressure you, but you've got a lot of really cool stuff to say, man. They don't make appliances to last very long anymore. They want you to have to buy another. Well, yeah, that's the thing, Grace. Without planned obsolescence, a company can go bankrupt because their stuff is too good. Right? What? But that's the thing. If you're not buying a new TV every 5 years, here's the thing: an LCD TV or an LED or whatever, they're supposed to last you about 5 years. Ours has lasted us 15, but it's got some issues, you know? Uh, uh, like all kinds of weird little things are going wrong on it and stuff. But here's the thing, man. If you know, if my mom is still here, she remembers that old TV we had. It was a big old piece of furniture when we finally got a color TV and like late. Big honking piece of furniture, cathode ray tube in the middle, right? Turn the knob. You could have a TV work for you for 40 years, right? And cost you what, $300, or maybe 150. I don't know. I find it hard to sort of extrapolate backwards in terms of what's a pre-Reagan dollar worth versus excuse me. If a TV back in the day would cost you $200 and last you for 40 years, and the TV that I have now is expected to last you for 5 years, then work in inflation and charge me the rate for a 5-year TV. Don't charge me $2,000 because it's 4K or 5K or whatever and blah blah blah. No, if it's only supposed to last a half decade, I want to pay you for a half decade of worth of use. That ain't gonna happen, but that's the way it should be, Gabriel J. Warren, I don't know this dude. I will yeah, Hams, hi, definitely take some of that. I like those. Black Dog says, what frustrates me is knife steel that won't stay sharp. How do we forget to harden a knife? You don't want to. Yeah, it seems that if you're, this is why I don't buy, Gerber anymore. I mean, they're made in the USA stuff. The steel is better than the Chinese mystery steel and the Bear Grylls stuff and everything. But across the board, their quality's gone down, and I just don't feel like rewarding them. I know a lot of people love Gerber. I don't. It's not the same company it was, and I find that steel is a real indicator in some cases. But I like 01. That's my favorite steel. I'm not into super steels, mostly because I have no experience with them. But the thing with 01 is it makes me feel like I'm a sharpening master because it's easy to get an edge. It doesn't lose the edge too quickly, but when it does, it's not that hard to get the edge back. Whereas with some of the super steels, I find you really have to grind away at it, Hold on. Lakes and Hikes. Hi. I'm just going back because I seem to have missed you should pop up but with no camera just to talk. That's yeah, actually Mallory's got a good point there. If you don't want to be on camera but you just want to talk. But I'm not gonna pressure anyone. Because I'm someone who is extremely introverted, okay? I have to make sure that I'm ready to go when I turn the camera on, whether it's to do this live stream or to just shoot myself for a video. I mean, I'm not wearing a mask per se because I don't know how you would do that, but like I have to get my confidence up in order to sit here and talk to you guys unscripted, saying stupid things and just, let's just roll with it. How often have I doused this entire desk in beer because maybe, I don't know, I pop it open and right? 10 years ago, if that happened, I would have been so mortified I just would have shut it off. But there's an ease that comes with doing this a lot where you sort of get used to it, and there are certain things that still make you really nervous and certain things you can just deal with. Which, by the way, is not what we're talking about tonight. We're talking about old-fashioned stuff that we love. Oh, you got to start with the Zoom, eh? Yeah, okay. All right, Hike. Just drop me a note and tell me how your first Zoom meeting went. Come on, man, you're totally worthy. Anyone's worthy. I'm only human. Yeah, TV repairman. Who the hell remembers that, right? I wonder if there are TV repairmen. I mean, there are computer repairmen. There must be monitor repairmen. Or is it just, oh, it's broken, throw it away and buy a new one? I just assumed it's throw it away and buy a new one. Okay, Gabriel J. Warren. I'm going to check this out once we're done here. I will remember. Thank you, Lakes and Hikes. Wait, I don't remember tube testers at every convenience store. Yeah, I'm going to check these stones out. Get D2 steel, stays sharp for a long time, but it ships easy. That's because it's too hard, Ethan, welcome to the live stream. We're talking about old-fashioned pursuits. I started by talking about the fact that I shave with a straight razor, which you obviously don't do. And I got a bunch of tools and stuff here to talk about, but I keep getting distracted because you guys are being so damned interesting. I just realized I'm wearing my headphones. Talk to them while I find my headphones because I can't hear a damn thing.
Okay. Good evening, everyone.
How the heck? Hey.
I didn't want to leave Jesse hanging on the road all night. So.
Everyone's just, sitting back, letting me do all the talking. What the hell? I totally didn't even notice that I wasn't wearing my headphones. Oh, well. So, yeah, you've got an appreciation for old-fashioned stuff. You've got a collection of really classic tents.
Classic in a sense. I mean, as you're talking about this, it occurs to me that it's sort of relative. And what I mean by that is, what is vintage for a certain kind of thing?
Yeah, that's legit.
For me, these tents are 20, 25 years old. I wouldn't call that old-fashioned, but it's not modern.
You're right.
It's from a certain time, and for me, with those tents, for example, it's because it's from a time where there was somebody who was trying to make something as well as they could possibly make it, regardless of cost, which is sort of a different ethos from what you find in most mass-produced things today. I mean,
yes.
For example, I still drive a 1993 Toyota Camry.
I used to drive a 98 Camry.
That car is, well, mine at any rate, is indestructible. It's got almost 500,000 kilometers on it. Yeah. It's on its first engine and first transmission. And nice. I think what happened there is Toyota had just started making cars in the United States, and they wanted to prove they could make a good car. So they did something that automakers don't do as much anymore. I think they tried to make the best car they could. And that vintage just lasted and lasted and lasted.
Yeah, I think that Toyota still makes a good car. The only reason why I recycled my 98 was, well, the thing is, in Montreal, rust is an issue because they put salt on the streets, right? Mm-hmm. Like how a car in Winnipeg lasts forever because they put sand down, stuff like that. Here, everything rusts out. And mine was rusting the hell out, and the final the straw that broke the camel's back, whatever the final straw was, I was booting out to shoot a video in a piece of woodland out near my day job, and I was about to get onto the highway. I was just sort of getting into position to go onto the on-ramp, and the entire exhaust pipe from my manifold to the RS end of the car. Clang. So I sheepishly pulled over, jumped out of the car, guy in a Beamer going by laughing his arse off at me. I jogged over, picked it up, threw it in the back. I threw it in the car. I had to put the seat down, threw it through the trunk, and got in. Went back home because, man, without that whole muffler and everything, that's a loud freaking car. I just called and said, come and take my car. But the fact is, the engine was still tickety-boo on that car. things that fall victim to rust were failing.
Well, I think, for example, that's the reason why Moss, which is the manufacturer of the tents that I really enjoy, could afford to make a tent as well as they wanted to make it, and still sell more of them. Because if you use a top quality tent hard, you're going to wear it out regardless of how well it's made. So they knew that they would, even at the top end of the market with the most expensive tent they could make, they would always still sell more to top end users who, by their nature, would wear their tents out.
Yeah.
So there are some, I guess there are some kinds of things where they lend themselves more to that kind of practice.
Yeah.
To sacrifices nothing in quality because they're simply inherently consumable.
Yeah.
In some way.
Yeah, absolutely.
As opposed to this idea of built-in obsolescence, where they're, you're building consumer goods that are designed to fail for no particular reason other than economic reasons for the company.
Yeah, because they're not bringing down the price because the thing doesn't last as long, which is what I was kind of bitching about before. I do want to say that Tyler, this is all heartwarming and stuff. I'm just sending you hearts, man. Mallory says there are TV repairmen. It's freakishly expensive. Something. Yeah, I didn't know that.
Appliances are a particularly annoying example. You discover that replacing any major component tends to be
hundreds
as expensive as just getting another one.
Yeah.
And even if it's something minor, after a short period, suddenly they're not making that part anymore, or that part is simply unobtainable.
Yeah.
I mean, one good thing that I've seen here in Sweden where I live is that people donate their old semi-dead appliances to become parts units.
Okay.
And there's a company that specializes in refurbishing your mostly working appliance with pieces of mostly dead appliances. And it's a clever idea that I'm sure the appliance manufacturers hate.
And is this like everywhere in Sweden, or is it just sort of your city?
There's a few. This is in the south of Sweden, and this is a company doing this so it's not on a large scale, although nothing in Sweden really is on a large scale. So.
Good point.
I mean, there's just a mere 10 million people here, so a smaller country.
Yeah, yeah. I just gonna check out Radio Shack had tube testers, but we don't have Radio Shack in Canada anymore. I don't even know if Radio Shack is even still there in the States. Did they go under everywhere?
I think it's over.
It is? Which
is kind of sad. I mean, for me, Radio Shack was certainly a part of my childhood.
Well, here it got replaced by the Source. Source.
Yeah.
But the thing is, what you could do at Radio Shack was you could go in, buy a breadboard and transistors, right?
Yeah.
Like computer geeks everywhere were like, I'm going to Radio Shack. I got some money. I'm going to Radio Shack. I'm going to make me some circuits, Holmes. You can't do that at the Source. What you can do is you can buy like radio controlled cars. You can buy laptops. You can buy phones. You can buy drones. But you can't buy the components that you could buy at Radio Shack.
Yeah, it used to be a good source of raw parts.
Yeah.
And they had the TRS-80 or the Trash 80, as we love to call them.
Yep. High Growth Mike is saying that TV repairmen are essentially extinct. But here, Wilson, hi, by the way, Wilson. You had a guy come and fix your new TV. Was that expensive? Seems that that's like piano tuners, If you can find one, he's going to charge you an arm and a leg. Yes, Avid, I will mention the corkscrew thing. Okay. Two things to say about that. One is, for any of you guys who, I'm going to start that sentence again because I lost control partway through. For any of you guys who, okay, all right. For any of you guys or girls who watch Coal Cracker Bushcraft, he put up a video recently that kind of answers an argument that Simo and I have been having. I don't know, Tenenbaum, were you in on this?
I haven't had the argument, but I've watched the video. Yeah.
Okay, because I was always saying, I don't. What the hell do I need a corkscrew on a Swiss Army knife for? Well, now I know, because he put up a video where they needed to get to a branch. Simo, are you around? Can you put a URL up for this video, or any of my mods? Put the URL up so that people can just go click. And I mean, when I saw this video, I was so excited because I think I've spoken about this with Ethan too, about this freaking corkscrew. And I was so excited about it. I was like, Ethan. Anyway, so they needed to get to a branch all the way up there, and one of them had a Swiss Army knife with a saw and a corkscrew on it. So what he did was he popped the corkscrew out, screwed it into the end of a long stick, and then used it as a very long saw.
Oh, it's extremely clever. It's a very clever use.
Very, and I was like, what? That's what YouTube is good for. When someone MacGyver something like that.
You can try to do that with the reamer, but it might fall out. I mean, the corkscrew really is perfect for that. Mm-hmm. So that's clever.
Yeah. So yes, Ethan. But in another way, the Swiss Army knife is kind of. It's funny. I see it as a modern gadget, even though they're not that modern. To me, this is a knife. Okay, Swedish, Mr. Tenenbaum.
Ah, yes.
Very simple, very elegant. The F1 is not a beautiful knife by any stretch, but because of what it is, because of how iconic it is, I have fallen in love with this knife. They cost enough that I had no business owning this one, but one of my viewers felt that I should own it, and I'm very grateful.
Well, you may, from previous conversations, you may know my theory on this. I have a number of Falcon Evens, but I have none that are new to me. Mm-hmm. They're all used. So I don't buy those things for their full price.
This was used too, obviously. Yeah. But it's, you know what it is? It's a blade with a rubber. Well, it's not rubber, with a rubberized handle on it. Simple.
I mean, the one thing that's truly special about them is that they are great in the cold.
Yes. Well, especially the Zytel sheath, right?
The sheath and the handle as well.
Yeah. So the Swiss Army knife, I use multi-tools more as a way to not have a bunch of things in my pockets, rather than loving the jack of all trades aspect to them, because I find they're a little bulky. They're a little big. I have somewhere a discontinued Leatherman, which I love because I've used almost every tool on it in a pinch. Another thing I like about it is that it is discontinued. I like having old discontinued stuff. There's a certain cachet to that, to me, that isn't really touched by the really modern stuff. But the thing is, there's too much happening in a multi-tool for me to actually really like them. I own one for practicality's sake, but I prefer older fashioned tools. I like the simplicity, and I like the strength that you get with this that you were never going to get with something that folds. Right? I mean, the Swiss Army knife is legendary for good reason, but I'm not going to use, I'm not going to pop open a Swiss Army knife and try to, crowbar something with it.
I mean, they certainly are terribly handy things. If you spend a whole summer out in the woods, sooner or later you might have to cut your nails. Did you bring a nail clipper? Maybe, maybe not. But if you've got a Swiss Army knife with scissors, you're in business.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I'm just going to see if I've missed anyone in the D2 is very hard. Lakes and Hike says he's going back to the D2 conversation. His knife is 62. Wow. Well, the thing is, Black Dog, I watch Netflix or YouTube. Netflix we watch on the TV at least. But I don't. I almost never watch, like, kick back and watch TV. Just taking a look. That corkscrew idea is a great idea. Yeah, man. And Mallory says the guy they're talking about, Gabriel J. Warren, shaves his beard with an axe. Now, the first video I ever made with a digital camera when I bought my 7D back in the day was a video where I was shaving with my little Wetterlings, my little 10-inch Wetterlings buddy hatchet or whatever they call it. I gotta appreciate a guy who shaves with an axe. You hear me, folks? You gotta appreciate a guy who shaves with an axe.
Wonder how does that turn out for him? Is that okay? Does that turn out well?
That axe needs to be hair popping sharp for shaving to work. Because I mean, my axe was sharp, but not hair popping sharp. Like, I still had a little bit of roughness going on. I had to go over it again afterwards with my straight.
As long as your blood volume is similar to how it was when you started, I guess it's all right.
What Black Dog is talking about here, that's that stove, right?
Yep, that's an old Swedish stove.
Yeah. Do you have one of those? Because I've been wanting to find it.
I do not. I really should start going to some of the. There are sort of flea markets here. They're called lopis. I should go to those, and I probably would find all kinds of good stuff.
I would love to find an old one, that works.
Old Optimuses, old Primuses, old Sveas. Yeah, I'm sure they're out there.
Now, you said Optimus Primus.
Yeah, it's a small coincidence. Two names of stove companies that make one Autobot.
Yeah, exactly. Tyler, speaking of old fashioned, Tyler says, picked it up, wasn't it bloody hot? Yeah, it sure was. Okay. I had to kick the exhaust pipe to the curb. Like, I was pulled over with the blinkers on and wait for it to cool down. I was trying to move the story along because I felt that I was wasting valuable tool talk time. By the way, Tyler, why the hell aren't you on here talking about old-fashioned stuff? Well, Mal, my very expensive broken fridge is a Samsung. The TV that's lasted us for, I think, 17 years, actually, is also a Samsung. We're very happy with it. But I do believe that we may look elsewhere for our next fridge. We had problems with our microwave, Panasonic. We've had problems with everything. Because the thing is, don't get me started about my Bosch dishwasher, by the way. But here's the thing. There's like a couple of companies making dishwashers and putting different people's nameplates on them. Mm. So I can be like, I'm not buying Bosch anymore. I'm going to buy General Electric. I'm pulling names out of the ether here. And it may have come from the same damn factory. So did I do myself a favor? Likely not. I miss the days when a tool was made by a company whose name was on the tool. And it wasn't a shadow corporation, making something for, what's that Swedish company that you were showing us? The black and the blue? The electrical tools?
Biltema, which is sort of the Swedish Canadian tire.
Well, because those Biltema tools, from what I was looking at, they might be Mastercraft here. They look the same, right? And I miss the days when like, this is a council tool. You know who makes it?
Council Tool USA.
Council Tool in the USA. This isn't made by but Wetterlings used to make axes for Husqvarna, wasn't it?
There's been a lot of consolidation in the industry. Actually, probably Hultafors for Husqvarna.
Maybe
because they're both in the south. But
yeah. But I mean, like, that's what I want to be able to. I want to be able to buy something and know who made it. Especially because, as I've said to you guys time and time again, I will gladly spend the extra on a small man shop over a major factory. Gladly. Little 5-man workshop, take my money. I may have to wait an extra 6 months to get that money, right? Because the true magic of this whole sort of, one company owning 4 tool manufacturers and all this blah, 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 is that the prices come down. The quality comes down, but the prices come down. And we enter into what Tyler was talking about when he was like months ago, when he was talking about the circle of poverty, right? I had a little kit that was a impact driver and a cordless drill. It was Ryobi, and I bought Ryobi because I just needed something to hold me over for the next couple of years. But the thing is, the higher end tools don't become more affordable a couple of years later, so you may end up buying another Ryobi set just to get you through the next couple of years.
We had a very interesting conversation about power tools and who makes them in the side channel that we hang out in. And I agree with you. It's nice to have the idea that you can buy from a company and they stand behind their name and they put their name on their product. There isn't this sort of middleman and disambiguation and steps between. I mean, I'll stick that URL in the chat here.
Yeah,
if people want to look at it. But I mean, for example, in power tools, Makita makes Makita.
Yes.
If you buy a Hitachi, it's made by Hitachi. And those are the rarities. There's very few outfits like that in power tools anymore. Almost every name that you know is part of a large conglomerate that is probably doing contract work for others. I suspect that Mastercraft and I suspect that Craftsman. Well, we know Kraft makes Craftsman. It's Black & Decker. Yeah. But I think Mastercraft and Biltema probably are both Tektronix, which are the guys who are making.
You're probably right.
Milwaukee, because the stuff looks the same.
Yep. Yeah. I'm just trying to catch up on the side chat because wow, so bloody behind. Mallory, man, I love this woman. I have an old fridge from the 1950s in my garage. I set it up to have my homebrew on tap in it. Who the hell has homebrew? Mallory does. Mallory, I'll be there in about 4 hours. Get that stuff opened up. My dad makes beer and wine and stuff, but it's, you know how in modern times everything is a kit now? I have this concept where if I win $30 million, well, that would mean I had bought a lottery ticket. But if I ever come into a lot of money, I want to buy a personal still. I want to make gin and I want to make whiskey. Now, whiskey, you make it, you put it in a keg for at least 3 years or whatever, or 10 years is what I would want to do. So like independent distillers, what they do is they make a bunch of whiskey, sock it away, and then they make gin to sell right away so that they don't go under while they're waiting for the whiskey to come of age. But what I like about, like, I know people who make beer the real way, no kits or anything. They buy a big ass pile of hops. They have equipment set up, and it's so much less expensive than it used to be to buy this stuff. Not because this is old-fashioned equipment. There's computerization now as well, but it's because we're in a golden age of craft brew, which means that people are making these machines more than they used to. And a lot of craft brew places are much smaller. Some of them only sell in their like in a brew pub that's attached to them, whatever. And the knock-on effect is that there are people making beer at home more than there used to be, like using actual equipment. And it's just, I like how in the face of absolute rampant modernization, there are still people who are saying, let's do this or that the old way.
It has a certain democratic quality, doesn't it?
There is definitely that.
And anyone can participate in that activity.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Mallory found the corkscrew hack video. It's in the side chat for anyone who wants to see it. It's brilliant. And it's frustratingly brilliant because it's so simple. It's one of those things where like, oh, I really wish I'd thought of that, because then I could have done that video. If you have a coarse sharpening stone, I've done my nails on my Lansky puck. So he's going back to this. This shows you how far behind we are on the chat here. There's my mom. Wait, Black Dog. There used to be a Canadian bush pilot that filleted a fish with the Gransfors Brooks. Really?
Maybe if it was a really big fish.
I could see
a huge pike.
I know. I feel a post live stream search coming on. Hike with Mike says, my buddy Swamp Camper has an old Swedish Primus or Optimus stove. It sounds like a dirt bike engine when it's operating.
Chug, 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 chug.
Yeah, Molly, I get the feeling that you bought like a vintage one, and that's what man, you can spend so much on stuff like that, like new appliances, and it just, that these things are going to let you down, and you're handing over sometimes big money, and you're like, so how long are you going to give me before I'm angry at you? And I'm tired of that. I'm really tired of that.
Well, this is sort of the question. I mean, you give Samsung several $1,000s.
Yeah.
Are they going to stand behind their product or not? Or better yet, are you not supposed to expect them to? I mean, in a way, it's kind of an erosion of the relationship where, there was a time if you were going to spend thousands of dollars on an object, you expected it to be serviced or maintained or fixed if there was a problem. Now it's like, well, basically we expect it to break. So sorry.
Yeah. I like shopping at a company where I know that they're going to stand by their stuff. And I like buying from a retailer that has the same philosophy. That's why I spend so much money at Lee Valley. They don't really have the best prices, but I have 100% success rate in saying, this is less than perfect, and then saying, send it back. I have a new one going into the mail for you today, including my large Swedish carving axe, my Gransfors large carving axe. Is it the Swedish carving axe or the large carving axe? I see it written as both of those everywhere.
I don't know.
I got the first one. The handle, there was something up with the handle. It was like it didn't feel right. There was something wrong, and I just sort of said, "Look, I don't know what's going on here." But the handle, there were it was all worm eaten here. I was like, it's probably fine, but I don't know if this is really safe long term.
I think Gransfors is a good example of a company that has that older ethos of, we're going to make it as well as we can, and we will stand behind it. Of course, for the amount they're charging, they better.
But it's funny because when I did the video on that Gransfors axe a few weeks ago, it's almost $100 more now than it was when I bought that. Right? It's gone from like just north of $200 to very bloody close to $300 Canadian.
There are things that are happening in the economy. One that I can tell you from personal experience is that the Swedish currency relative to, say, American and Canadian dollars has fluctuated wildly in terms of its worth over the last few years. So that's a factor. And there's also all the other things that are going on in the world. I mean, I was looking today at some tent pegs, and tent pegs that I bought for $15 for 6 a year ago are now $25.
Wow.
I don't know how that happened.
Yeah.
Except that there's some pretty scary things going on in the economy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I think let's not. Because
we'll leave that for now. But
what's his? Oh, okay, man, I would love to know who this guy was. Oh, it was in the old Field and Stream magazine ads. Okay, so I'm not going to find a video. Late 90s, I'm not going to find a video. That's too bad. I would love to see that.
We never really found that Yukon River rafting video either.
No, we didn't. Hey, Mark Poopmans is here. No.
I have to get back to that one. I found some videos like that, but none that sounded like the right one.
Yeah. I don't know. I found all kinds of weird stuff, but, I'm just taking a look here.
Mark would like us to talk more about bushcraft.
Yeah, well, it's funny because I have all this stuff here. Quick quiz. You got 30 seconds to answer. Everyone in the side chat. What's Jesse's favorite fire making method? When I say 30 seconds, I mean take your time because, like on YouTube, everything goes really quick. On StreamYard, it makes me wait for it. So anyone who's been watching me forever knows what my favorite fire making method is. Where's the slimy one? You mean Simon? He's he said be right back a while ago. Hike with Mike got it. Mark, really? Mallory, what? Torch? What?
Blowtorch.
I thought she was talking about this. Yeah, flint and steel. Flint and steel, because holy crap, is that simple, right? You got a piece of rock, you got a piece of steel. You do this, and you set your house on fire. Yeah, there's something beautiful about this, man. I guess you guys can't see the sparks on camera, eh? I've noticed that a lot. It's like you can be getting a...
we can actually see some of those because it's sparking really well.
Yeah. I love it. I love it, man. Starting a fire with something as time-honored as this is so exciting to me, man. The feeling of doing something that bloody primeval. Those of you who are academic will know that primeval means way older than that. But I mean, in terms of bushcraft skills, that's a primeval skill. What I would love to do one day is go back to, like, Ötzi, right? Little iron pyrite. I would love to try that. I'd love to see if I made, in fact, I did a video on it. I made some Amadou, which, by the way, is much harder to light than char cloth is. But when I got the Amadou to light using flint and steel, I felt like I was doing the dance of the ancient gods or something. I was like, this is old. I love that stuff. I
was going to say that even the lowly match is not what it used to be. I remember, in the 90s, you could get Eddie Strikealls or Redbirds really easily.
Yeah.
For one thing, they're not the same now. And for another,
they're not.
In the era of e-commerce, you can't really get Strikeall matches mailed to you.
No.
It's like lithium batteries. They're like, they have to be handled as hazardous goods.
Yeah.
So unless you're lucky enough to be able to buy them in the store, you can't even get them.
Yeah, and you can get them at Canadian Tire.
Yeah, you have
that's the only place I can think of right now.
Yeah.
Hold on. I just want to make sure that we're Mallory. Yeah, flint and steel. Yeah, you guys all know. Yeah, you guys are just big later. You're just trolling me. I'm about the boom. Again, Hike with Mike and I are on the same page. I think that if Hike and I went and had a drink one night or a coffee or something, that would be an interesting conversation. Black Dog likes ferro rod or Yuko matches. That's the company that does that really cool little candle lantern, right?
They do a bunch of cool matches. They do weatherproof matches, and they do little and huge fire starter matches of various dimensions. They make this fire starter that's made from a sugarcane product.
Really?
It essentially has a match head, and you light it, and then it slowly burns down. And they range from tiny to just massive. So they have this huge range of match-like fire starters that are pretty cool.
I will take a look at that.
Well, my favorites are the weatherproof ones, the ones that, or they call them stormproof. The idea is that if you can get it lit with the little red phosphor striker for 3 or 4 seconds, it will not go out, regardless of whether you're getting it wet or not. It will burn underwater, theoretically. It's like magnesium or something. So it will not stop combusting.
I will take a look.
And because they're not strike-all, you can in fact ship those because they ship them with the red phosphorus striker, not near the match head. So those are okay.
Right. Grace is asking, never tried flint and steel. What would be a good brand? This one here is Convoy SG. They're British, but I believe they've got an American presence. I think you can buy them on Amazon. And it seems like a good one to me, right? I've had no problems with it. Whoops. I have to sort of nap this flint.
Will this be the night that Jesse sets himself on fire?
I don't think so. I also have one from the Canadian Outdoor Equipment Company. It's like, I think it's their house brand. That one's very small, but they make a 3-finger one now. What I like about this one is that I can get all my fingers in, because you get a lot more control like this than on something that you can only get 2 fingers into. But I think, if there's all kinds of people making these, and so long as the steel is good, you're doing all right. No, I only have one here. I was going to show you another one, but it's in the workshop. So I'm SOL. I do have some waterproof matches. Coglins, however the hell you pronounce that.
Or possibly Coughlin's.
Coughlin's? Really? I also appreciate the flint and steel, right? The ferro rod. Apparently, this is also quite an old technology. I hadn't known that really for years, but apparently there's some history to the flint and steel as well. Oh, good night, Mom. In fact, hold on. Hike with Mike says, Grace Martin, most flint and steel you have to get from someone that makes them by hand. Find a site on the internet. It's usually a custom made and handmade thing. I don't know how many of you folks are members of Bushcraft USA, that website, that online forum, but there's always someone on there making and selling good flint and steel. Mallory, you gotta get yourself a set. Steve Wallace. I will take a look. Wait, it's hot and humid in Ohio. Strike anywheres don't last. Oh, I guess they disintegrate. How come no one else is coming on to talk about their old-fashioned tools? What's up with you folks? Everybody gets shy. Tyler, well, I guess Tyler's still traveling, so he might not have access to his internets. Just taking a look. Hike with Mike says, all my steels have been handcrafted by artisans. Well, in that case, Hike, because Grace is in the same country as you, because most of the artisans that I would be able to suggest are like British or Canadian or whatever. You guys are both in the States. Maybe you two should chat it out in the side chat there, and you can suggest a good but affordable steel. I think I used matches on the barbecue recently, but even with the barbecue, I use flint and steel or ferro rod. Oh, Black Dog found the Axe Filey guy. So what are we looking for? If you can type sort of a URL, but not type the dot. Tenenbaum, how did you do that when you weren't a mod yet?
Replace the dot with the word dot and the slash with the word slash. That kind of works. It's a pain, though.
Yes. Mark, yeah. Magnesium shavings. I've never used magnesium shavings as such. What I will sometimes do is on a ferro rod, I will scrape slowly to get some shavings onto what I'm lighting. And sometimes I don't accidentally spark it and ruin what I'm trying to do, but that works. You get a few shavings down on there, and then then they ignite, and they can extend your spark a little bit. All right, Mallory. Yeah, that's legit. When you're having a bad day, sometimes it's best to just sort of, go to bed. Yeah. Tomorrow will be better, kind of thing. But of course, I'm just taking a look. Used that a lot in the past. Yeah. I've never bought the magnesium block, what I'm talking about. There are so many ways to start a fire that part of me feels that, like, if you find a way that you're happy with, why do you even have to keep looking? It's just that I would like to try. I would like to be successful at some point with the bow drill, just to say that I've done it. But I don't.
Primitive skills are neat. It's neat to have that ability in your arsenal in case you should happen to need it.
Yeah,
I've been watching some of these survival TV shows lately, and I've gotten hooked on a guy named Ed Stafford, who's he's just a maniac, but
his skills are
pretty amazing. I mean, seeing him make a bow drill fire in a really wet jungle is pretty impressive. So yeah, it'd be nice to know that if I didn't have anything with me and I had to make a fire, but maybe if I had a knife, I could pull that off. I cannot. I've never even tried.
I have not been. Oh, I've tried. I have not yet been successful. In fact, I should do a video of that because I'm never successful. Get back to what I had originally promised back in 2013 when I started this channel, that I would show my failures as well as my successes. Because as I said in a previous live stream, showing one of my failures helped me turn that into a success, because I said, listen, guys, this isn't working. What am I doing wrong? And I got so many suggestions, and I tried new things, and now I've got the skills that I need. What I'm referring to is I was very good at getting a ferro rod to work with. I'm sorry. I'm boring myself here. I was very good at getting a ferro rod to work with a just bunched up jute, like when it's really light and like a poof, or with char cloth or anything like that. But with natural tinder, I had a terrible time. And so I just said, guys, what am I doing wrong? So even the selfish part of me thinks that showing my failures off as well as my successes is a good policy. The reason I had put like an axe and a knife and stuff here was because what I wanted to talk about a long ass time ago, in fact, tonight was, oh wait, hold on. Okay, so Hike with Mike, Grace is asking if you have any suggestions for the fire steel. Yes, Mark. Right to repair is very important. I mean, I kind of don't want to dive back into, because I really feel that we swerved way off track about the washer or whatever. I'm just taking a look. Firesteel.com. Yes, I had tried to, years ago, I tried to order something from firesteel.com, but their shipping to Canada was incredible. So I just haven't gone back.
Isn't it amazing that in this sort of globalized market, it's still so variable how much things are depending on where you are?
It makes no sense to me. No sense. Why? We're all, we're supposed to be globalizing. And, I order a $10 fire steel and it costs $23 to get it across the border. No, we're not globalizing. We're talking the talk, but we're not walking the walk.
Yeah, those are decent. I mean, The Light My Fire, the fire steels are nice too. They're not necessarily cheap, but they're of good quality.
Yeah. Mark says, with a bow drill, you almost need downy feathers to contain the heat. Yeah, because jute can go up really fast. Like what I have to do when I'm using like the poofed up jute is I will put it under some birch bark and stuff like that, and I'll have everything sort of already built, so that when there's a foomp, then the birch bark will catch and it'll go foomp, but not quite as quickly. And I'll usually throw some fat wood shavings in there as well to extend it a bit. And that foomp plus that foomp will usually have lit the tiny sticks, which will then burn a little longer and light the pencil size or the finger size or whatever, and just because man, poofy jute, foomp, and it's gone in like a Montreal minute. Cockleburrs, beech tree leaves, and goldenrod work if dry for ferro rod tinder. Good to know. And Foxit says it like it is. Shipping prices are a turd of all turds. And it feels like it just keeps going up. This is not what we're supposed to be talking about here tonight. Sorry. By the way, Tenenbaum, what's your favorite fire starting method?
I am not using much other than Bic lighters and matches. For me, it's very utilitarian. I'm trying to make dinner. You know, I don't revel. I've never really reveled in that particular part of it. I use fires. I have a fire steel or two now, and I try them out. But I sort of go for the sure thing most often.
Fair enough. I wonder how old matches really are, like as a technology.
Well, you need the chemistry, and the chemistry is not that old.
Yeah.
I was going to say, one of the other things that's happened with matches lately is that one of the ways to make methamphetamine involves red phosphor.
Oh,
so there was a period where meth heads were sort of going through matchbooks at an incredible rate, to the point that red phosphor was one of those things that was hard to get, and they were controlling it. And that made getting like replacements for your survival matches really tricky.
Right.
But I think that's been settled now. Now they're just preventing them from getting the other actual chemical precursors.
Right. Fair enough.
Yeah, matches have got to be 18th century.
Yeah. I mean, that still makes them fairly time honored compared to it, like lighters and stuff. I used to have a Zippo somewhere, but I don't know where the hell it's gone. It's been gone for years. Again, when there are very easy postmodern, variants, why buy those when I can get something that I have to refill and take care of, right?
Quebec Homestead has pointed out that the match was invented in 1826 by John Walker, a pharmacist, by accident.
Where did you? She Googled it, right?
I assume.
By accident.
Like so many good things. Boy, must he have been surprised.
Yeah. He was working on an experimental paste that might be used in guns. Okay, so he was aiming for something
something that might
ignite, but yeah. Man, you guys are on top of it. Hike says, I revel in the fire-making arts, from the tinder foraging and cutting logs and tree limbs and organizing the size of the kindling and getting the combustible natural materials. I love it. Yeah, I do too. And especially now, since I did that video where I kind of called myself out, I was always doing like a little bundles of everything, just getting the fire lit, sometimes not, kind of thing. But now, like, Ray Mears says, you have to be able to do this around your sticks for it to be real tinder, real kindling. You need to throw a lot on there to give it the time to burn so that the next size up will catch. And it makes a massive difference, because now when I light a fire, I just sit back and I watch this thing that I made light and go up and just take on a life of its own. Whereas before, when I was just taking these little bundles of everything, it was a crapshoot, and there was a certain stress to that. Is this going to work? No, it kind of didn't. All right, start again.
It could be stressful. I mean, it depends how wet everything is. If everything's really wet,
yeah,
it's always exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. Lakes and Hikes has got to go. All right, good night. See you next time. Let me just throw up the invite again, just in case somebody wants to come on. Mallory can't because she's being quiet tonight. That's okay. That's okay. I'm not going to judge people for not coming on, but I do like to keep the invites open. I find that the more people are talking on screen, the more interesting I find it. I already know my thoughts. I want to hear you guys's. Use guys. I can't help but think that that's a Canadianism. Use guys, but I don't know if that's true or not.
Possibly.
My uncle passed away, and we found some really old waterproof wax match that was maybe a half-inch long and 20 years old in storage and still worked. Try that with modern kitchen matches. I find that the matches that are covered in wax will last forever, no matter how damp it gets. Let me just walk that back, even if the area gets somewhat damp. But I have boxes of those Redbirds that just don't work anymore because they got humid.
Yeah.
Forget about it. Right? Once they're humid, they just crumble instead of igniting.
I guess you got to keep them in a Ziploc or something.
Yeah, something like that. Mark once winter camped in BC in the Gulf Islands. That must have been rainy. There was a dryish kindling, but the +2 foggy rain for 3 weeks. Yeah, it meant that all the logs were soggy, no fires. Yeah, you just got to cut down to dry wood in BC, man.
I was going to say, I was on the West Coast Trail, and I saw something there for the first time I'd never seen before. I saw hikers taking pieces of wood and sort of, not really feather sticking them, but sort of cutting into them at regular intervals with their knife to try to expose the dry wood in the middle of the stick. And they would do this with every one of them, and it actually seemed to help because this is one of those places where everything is wet all the time. Yeah. So the outsides are wet, so it won't light, but doing what they did, they could get it to light. And I thought, wow, that's cool.
Because they get down to the dry wood inside.
Yeah, I'd never seen that before. This was, I don't know, in the early 90s.
If Serge was still here, he could tell you in at least one of our videos back when it was all rainy and wet. I was just cutting off the white outer layers of this wood, and it adds so much time to your fire prep. But
it's very, very frustrating. I mean, it's just like any other fire, but now you're using your heat to create steam to remove water from something that you want to burn. Which means it's sort of a negative feedback. To have a fire that works, you have to have a fire that's hot enough to do that. To get a fire that's hot enough to do that, you have to get past the
fire that works.
So you're working a lot harder.
Yeah,
you're constantly putting more material on.
Yeah.
Probably you've got material sort of near the fire that you're trying to dry so that it's dry enough to bother putting it on.
Yeah.
It just makes an activity that sometimes can be hard much harder.
Yeah. Yeah. Valerie knows what we're talking about here. Mallory. But I'd rather be camping right now than sitting in my house. That's for damn sure. We're caught up.
That must mean we need to be more interesting.
Hey, have you gotten onto that canoe yet?
I've been out a couple times.
Nice.
Been nice, not too far. I'm actually working on a rack for it for my garage, which is now free of garbage, so it's possible for me to work in there. Because until now, I've had my canoe sitting on its bottom, which is not the ideal way to store a canoe. It's not the worst thing for a little while, but I'd like to flip it onto its gunnel so it can live the way it's supposed to live. So that's that's taking my energy at the moment.
Yeah, and it's funny because canoe is where I have a real appreciation for the Uber Modern, because what you get with the Uber Modern is lightweight.
Mm.
Yeah, I'm not 25 anymore, right? I don't want to pick up a 70-pound canoe.
Or more. I mean,
Yeah,
at the summer camp where I first really got enchanted with canoeing, we had canoes going back to the 50s. Canvas covered cedar frames or
yeah,
really early fiberglass models, and these things weigh 100 pounds.
yeah,
And there's nothing wrong with them when they're in the water. When you're sitting in it, it's all fine. It's everything else that is not so great. Getting them to and from the water is painful.
yeah.
Sure.
I wonder how that extra weight makes them perform in the water. Like if you get more of a solid feel or not.
It depends. Well, something can be heavy but still floppy, so stiffness is important. But if stiffness is equal, then a heavier boat wants to keep going. It has more momentum. The question is its weight significant compared to your weight?
Yeah,
and that varies, and there's weight out in the ends too. But a heavier boat will sort of keep going and track along, whereas a lighter boat can get blown around or pushed around.
yeah.
So sometimes weight's not the worst thing. And again, as I mentioned, there's stiffness versus floppiness.
Mm-hmm.
Stiff is good when it's calm. When you're in waves, you actually want a little give, because a stiff boat will sort of get bounced around because it can't twist or
Yeah. I see what you're saying.
or flop through the waves.
Yeah.
So it's all compromises, between heaviness and stiffness, both in several directions. Torsional stiffness along the keel.
Right.
And you're right. I mean, a modern boat is going to be light, and it's going to be stiff in just about every direction.
Yeah.
That's nice.
I just want to do a rapid fire of 3 things that people have said. Mark says that Kevlar canoes can be awesome.
Oh yeah.
Hey, is yours Kevlar, by the way?
I went with tough stuff, but
Tough
I mean,
stuff.
you can now generalize Kevlar to be composites.
Yeah.
Whether it's this basalt stuff or Kevlar or carbon, or
Yes.
even fiberglass. I mean, there's nothing wrong with a well-made fiberglass canoe.
Well, there's weight there, though, right? Unless fiberglass has come a long way since last time I sat in one.
So the different cloths have different weights, and they have different rigidities or stiffnesses.
Okay.
But then again, how you put them together, how you lay them up, which resins you use, are as important as the material. So you can make a really nice fiberglass canoe.
Yeah.
Or you could make a dog of a Kevlar canoe.
Fair enough. Yeah, fair enough. Fox has an old aluminum canoe. Is that one of those Grummins? Grummins?
Which I love. I love the 17-foot Grumman. It's one of my favorite.
That's a classic boat, that's for sure.
Boats.
And Black Dog says Swifts used to be about 100 pounds. I get the feeling that the Swift we know today is fairly recent in their history. Like the like pinnacle of the technology Swift canoes that we know. But that's just because I was not aware of Swift back when Swift started.
So I do have a little of the history, because I was in and around Algonquin Park a lot when they were really getting going.
Okay.
And what they did first is they made a lot of fleet canoes, which is to say they made canoes for rental.
Yeah.
And they were well-made canoes. They were not exceptional in any way. They were using very conventional techniques and very conventional designs. They weren't necessarily super light, but they were well built and they lasted. And they were built
you need for fleet canoes.
Exactly. They were built for the purpose, which is here's a canoe that I can rent to random people in Algonquin Park for a few seasons that will serve them reliably. The Keewaydin, which was one of their most popular designs, which is basically a prospector with its height cut down a little.
Yeah.
They made thousands of those and rented them through Algonquin Outfitters, their sister company, for years and years and years. And I've rented that boat and I've paddled that boat, and it was a good boat.
The key weight is also the shape of it makes it easy for them to do that combi version, right? Yeah. Solo or tandem.
Yep. It's a good all arounder because it's basically the bottom 2/3 of a prospector.
Yeah.
Now they've moved on to higher technology and much more amazing and fancy designs. But where they started off with was essentially serviceability.
Yeah.
Let's make an average, high quality boat, and they were competing with a few people. I mean, there was a company called Scott Canoe out of New Liskeard that made a lot of the fleet boats that were in Algonquin. They still exist. They're part of Abitibi & Co. now. They make more or less the same boat that they did then, which is a very solid, well-made, conventional, serviceable canoe.
Yeah, the Swifts now, I don't know if it's all the models, but they went really into that tumble home, eh?
And then they're certainly experimenting with very impressive designs with respect to the use of tumble home. And that's possible because of the use of advanced techniques and materials. That's much harder to do. It's almost impossible to do without them.
Okay.
So I mean, it's a little like tents. The differences between a tent today and 20 years ago are subtle, but they're there if you know what to look for. And it's certainly true in Swift canoes. They have shapes now that 20 years you would have struggled to make in anything but wood. I mean, you can do anything with cedar strips, but if you want to use composite, you have to. That was not possible before, and it is now. I mean, some people look at that 14-foot prospector, for example, with the large tumble home, and they say, "Well, that's really weird looking and not traditional." And why, if it's a good idea, why has no one done it before? The answer is because no one could do it like that before.
Yeah.
But now that you can, it's actually great. I mean, if you want a boat that you can paddle from a solo seated position where the gunnel isn't in your way, it's fantastic to be able to bring the gunnel in tight like that, but still have that width below. It's something that any canoe designer would told you, I wish I could have done that, but I couldn't, but now I can.
Yeah.
So that's a real advance.
And it does look weird, though. Like, I can appreciate the point of view of people who find it a little crazy looking.
When it comes to solo boats like that, in a way, there's been a slow convergence where canoes and kayaks are starting to resemble each other more and more. And that is certainly not traditional, but I think it's evolution. If you want a solo boat, there's a lot of things about the shape of a kayak, including the fact that it comes back in towards you on the top, that makes sense. So that's what's exciting about Swift. It's that they're doing new things. They're pushing the edge of design.
Now, you paddle a Novacraft, right?
I bought a Novacraft, and I'll be sort of honest here about this. If I could have gotten a Swift at a reasonable price where I am, I probably would have. I mean, I went with Novacraft just because it's someone who happens to have a distributor where I am, and they make a perfectly lovely canoe, and I love my canoe, and I'm not saying anything bad about it.
It's a more traditional.
It's a much more traditionally designed and constructed boat. I mean, it's a prospector. It's a clone of a chestnut prospector that's from half a century ago, essentially.
Yeah, and let's face it, those of us who grew up watching Bill Mason, we kind of want that prospector, right?
Oh, it's so versatile. I mean, you can. Yeah. I use that boat as a solo boat, and it's big enough that I can use it with my wife as well. It does just fine on the lake, and I think it'd do all right in a river. Does okay in calm conditions, do okay in windy conditions. Yeah. Does okay to faff around in, and I can also throw 150 pounds of junk in it. Yeah, it'll do fine as well. I was at the dealer picking it up, and there was another couple there who was picking up a 18.5-foot, very sleek 18.5-foot boat for their family that they were going to put their 2 kids in. And I was telling them, I'm here for the Prospector, and that's kind of a pickup truck, but you guys have gone for the Ferrari. It's a low, fast racing boat that you bought essentially. And, it's a little bit of a different idea. It was, I forget which model it was, but they seemed happy with the idea that they were getting the Ferrari and I was getting the pickup truck. But I want the pickup truck.
I would also want the pickup truck. Excuse me. What I like in canoes is old-fashioned lines with uber modern materials.
Well, I mean, for example, Tough Stuff is a pretty interesting thing. It's a composite cloth that you can bend very far out of shape, and it will go back to its original shape with no problem.
Yeah, that's a plus. In a canoe, when you might bounce over a rock, that's a plus.
Yeah. You know, you might destroy the gunnels and you might destroy the braces, but the fabric, unless you really, really push it far, is going to be okay. And that's attractive, because that means that canoe, if you're careful, you can keep it going for a long time.
Yeah, that's true. Foxit I'm going to start that again. Foxit found the brand name of his canoe. Yellow line.
Low. Line. I don't know that one, although there were a lot of them. I mean,
well, he says it was made sometime in 73, been in his family since roughly 75 to 76. So it may be a company that's not there anymore. But you got to love, an ancient boat like that's been sitting in your family for that long. Where you get in it and you know what it's going to do. Not because of the shape or the company, but because you have been in that boat so often. I keep banging on about this, but I do love the familiarity that comes with using a tool to that extent. Like when your axe isn't pristine and new anymore, when it's got stains and you've sharpened it so much that in subtle little ways the bit, the sharpening is unique to you. It may have a ding out here from when you missed and you hit a rock or something, but you did that 10 years ago. I keep going back to this guy whose name I do not remember, who'd been using his Grumman #1 Canadian belt knife for 40 years. And like when he said that, I envied him having had a tool for that long. I mean, I'm only 48, so
he must have been sharpening it very carefully. I mean, you hear of people who say, well, you just need to strop. You don't need to take much material off, because if he had been, sharpening it for 40 years, there would be nothing left.
Well, I'm one of those people who says strop and strop and strop and strop and sharpen as seldom as you can, because
if you want to have a knife for 40 years, you have to do that.
You got to do that. And I think that you can do that. If you're good enough with your stropping, you can keep your knife in fighting shape for a long, bloody time. Hold on. I just want to... Black Dog says something interesting. Yeah. Try portaging and packing a kayak. Yep.
No, and I don't mean that a kayak is a good boat for paddle and portage. What I mean is that there are some solo canoes that now have some kayak-esque characteristics.
Well, that's where the tumble home comes in, right?
Exactly, but it's still open on top, so you can get stuff in and out of them very easily. So, like pack boats or the Rob Roy, which is essentially a covered canoe, you've got sort of designs that are the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
To one degree or another now. By the way, on YouTube, there's a guy named Kayak Camper who does YouTube videos of tripping in Algonquin with a kayak, and he is awesome because he goes through the pain that Black Dog describes. He's got the system. He's got a system down where he can get all of his stuff in and out of the boat and still portage it. But it looks like murder, And he's got a yoke which he sticks on the seat, so it's vaguely comfortable because without a yoke, if you put a kayak on your head, I mean it's not like Mr. Canoe Head. You're like trapped in your own world and you can't see anything at all.
Hey, that Mr. Canoe Head still has a YouTube channel, eh? Well, Peter Paul Shadow.
That's good.
Yeah, it's about sort of hackintoshing. But
how does he see the screen? But
yeah, in Ontario, there's a beer named after that character of his. What was his comedy troupe called? The Frantics, right?
Frantics and Four on the Floor.
Yeah, the Frantics are still together. I mean, they're not on CBC or anything anymore, but
they are funny.
Yeah.
Historically very funny.
Mal says she's getting a video uploaded to the tube. So last Friday I had a video that was supposed to go up and I made a tactical error in my filming and spent hours fixing that. So I finally got the video finished because I like to finish them and upload them out like a week early. So, and I set them for 9:30 the following Friday. As I finally got it finished and it's up and it's set to go live on Friday. But, I always appreciate when, say, Mal or someone is listening while they're doing all the work involved in getting a video uploaded, because there's a lot going on. And so I appreciate that, Mal. Fox at his aluminum canoe, no holes, few dents, but the thing is literally, it's got the foam floats.
Well, most modern canoes have flotation in their ends. And that's because if a canoe won't float by itself, I think from a regulation point of view, it's an issue.
I just remember when I was young, the way that happened was big styrofoam wedge in the front and back, maybe one under the seat,
Well, for example, my Novacraft has compartments at both ends.
Yeah.
That are airtight and are designed to make it float in the event that it should be capsized.
Yeah. Black Dog is asking if it was Cliff Jacobson, and I don't remember what he's referring to. I think he's referring to something you said.
I know Cliff is, but I don't remember what I said.
Brandon says that Kayak Camper has great videos. I'll check them out.
I'm a fan.
Mark says, yes, the tumble home idea may have come from earlier. I guess that's whitewater solo canoes. And the ideas from those came from racing canoes and racing kayaks. Maybe. Seat height on canoes has changed everything. Keeping that weight lower keeps dumb paddlers from swamping. Fair point.
Certainly helps.
Yeah. Mallory says I'm welcome. Grace appreciates all the effort that we put in. It is, man. It is effort, especially if you, when I'm editing. I've said this to Mal, and I think I've said this to you, Tenenbaum, that every time text goes on the screen, I'm adding time, shall we say, especially where I start to mask things so that like something appears. I put my hand across and it appears like it's wiping or anything. I'm adding an hour onto my life every time I do a bunch of that stuff.
I'm just curious because I haven't tried this. Is that because the software doesn't make that easy?
When you're doing masking,
it sounds like something that the software should make easy.
I'm using a $300 editing app, right? If I had like access to something really pro level, maybe, but when you're doing masking and it's not just a flat shape at the same angle, you have to do it frame by frame. And I shoot at 24 frames per minute so that I get the most film-like motion in my videos. Someone who wants a very TV-like motion will shoot at 30. Doesn't matter. At the end of the day, if it's my hand or something like that moving, I have to do it frame by frame. If I just have to blur something out and I shot on a tripod and I'm not like moving back and forth in front of it, I just throw the blur on and leave it, and it's fine.
So the moral of the story is you should only put text on when nothing's moving.
Yeah, but it's not visually interesting.
The constraints of creativity. It's a problem.
If I'd never gone to film school, I think my videos would be way faster to make.
I wonder if there's a corollary there. If I hadn't gone to film school, then maybe I'd be happier.
Maybe. Oh, okay. No, he's asking me if he was the one with the Grumman knife for. I don't remember, but I'll take a look afterwards. Brandon says, "I love the multi-height seat pods some of the solo Swift canoes have." I got to take another look at the solo. Oh, maybe is that with their pack boat designs?
The pack boats and some of the solo boats as well. The seat sort of slots in to molded in grooves on either side of the hull, so you can slot it into one height or down lower
okay.
or down lower. It's a fantastic design. It's not, continuously variable in height, but it gives you choices. Makes it easier to put it up or put it down. It's very clever. It's another example of something that they're doing that no one has really done like that before.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, they bring their A game whenever they get to designing something. They bring their A game.
And I think more than anything, because they're working in composites, they seem to have people who are thinking outside the box in terms of what they can do with those composites.
Yeah, fair enough. Absolutely fair enough. Yeah. Part of me really wants to build a cedar strip canoe, though. Like in a big, big way. I think I would do it with a kit.
Yep.
Just simplify it as much as possible.
As long as you got the space, you could do it. I mean, I think, getting the hardback set up and having it in a place where it could be for a while, it's probably the hard part. And after that, it probably gets easier.
Yeah, you're probably right. Yeah. I dream about a lot of things, Seems like I spend a lot of time regretting things I've dreamed about doing and never done.
If you will it, it is no dream.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I still got time left in this life, right?
Yep.
And you've always got time left in your life until you don't. Am I correct?
Oh, I don't know about you, but I'm still more or less stuck at home, so
yeah,
things to do.
Yeah, but I'm stuck at home, but I'm still working full time.
Oh, there's that as well. I mean, I shouldn't be here right now. The autumn semester has started, so I'm sort of playing hooky. I'm supposed to be available for work in about 3 hours. Great.
I don't know how you do this, man. I don't know how you do it.
I spend a lot of time unconscious at times of the morning when I should be awake.
Okay.
That's part, but it's not easy.
All right. Yeah, I guess if I didn't have kids, life would be so much simpler on so many levels. I wonder if I have anything here to talk about. It's funny because I have two knives here that are both composite, both plasticky handles, right? I've got the F1 and the Garberg. And it's funny that these are the ones that I have here to talk about because I like wood. I don't love plastic or rubberized or G10 or any of that. I like wood. And yet both of the ones I have here, and these are both knives that get forest time right now. And they're both stainless. And I'm a carbon steel guy. And it's funny.
You cannot be that easily pigeonholed.
I guess I'm a beautiful snowflake. But on an axe, I will not accept. I have one of those Fisker's deals. I use it as a grubbing axe, but no, it's got to be wood. It's got to be wood. It's got to be a nice piece of steel. Funny, eh? And a lot of my knives have plastic handles now. All my Moras do. I wonder why. Wow.
I was going to say, I mean, traditional Moras had a birch bark handle, but those are not as easy to find as their plastic handled knives now. They still make them. They still make the number 6 or whatever. And you can get it, in natural birch or with Dalarna red paint, which is the traditional way they look. But they're less popular, I guess.
Yeah, I'd like to find one with a birch bark handle. I loved the process of making that handle for Camille's knife.
That turned out really nice.
Oh, I love that. It's same thing though. I felt like I was doing something. I said way too often in that sentence. I felt as though I was doing something time honored again. It's a traditional way of making knives from a certain part of the world. Yeah. I like what Mark says. If I do build one for myself, you'll likely find people who want some or want your strong back after. I would love to make one. I would love it. I wonder what kind of tools you need for that. You need a plane, I guess, or I guess you can get away with just a random orbit sander, but
Yeah, you're gonna find a way to sand a lot. So, and you need a hell of a lot of clamps. That's my impression.
yeah. I always feel that what I should be doing is every time I go into the home hardware, whatever the big box store is called, I should just pick up a clamp every time I go in, no matter what I go in for, because every workshop needs as many. He who dies with the most clamps wins. Do you know what I'm saying?
Mm.
And they're affordable if you're buying them one at a time, but they rapidly become really bloody expensive if you want to do a glue up of something and you're like, I need 8 more clamps. Yeah, so I just keep trying to remember to pick one up and throw it on but I'm usually there buying expensive stuff and I'm stressing about the money. So adding another $10 on is like, I'm not
Say,
gonna.
at this point, I can't help but talk about the economy again for a moment.
Yeah,
One of the things that's been going through my head lately is that anything I want is bound to be more expensive later than it is now. So I have this motivation
yeah,
to buy things now. Except I don't want to spend money. You know, I want to save money because saving money is a good thing to do. But of course, I also want to buy things before they're twice as expensive.
yeah,
So that's for me it's a bit of a dilemma.
yeah.
Your clamp theory is the theory I'm applying to toilet paper.
Hmm.
I buy a bag of toilet paper when I shop, regardless of whether or not I need it, because I know for a fact that I will use it and it will be more expensive later.
Yeah, I get that.
It's basically a certainty. I mean, this happened in '08 and it's happening again. First, the price goes up. Then they make the sheets a little smaller.
Yeah,
Then there are less sheets on the roll. Then there are less rolls in the package. And then the shit's about to hit the fan.
yeah.
To me, it's the clearest indicator there is. And that's happening again. So that, it's making me buy things. It's making me spend money that I wouldn't spend otherwise, I guess.
Well, I said in the last live stream how at least for bush gear, the madame has put me on a 6-month moratorium, which started last Sunday.
No, you should be spending your money on essentials and things you need to survive. And I know you're trying, but you should try to get that damn fridge fixed because I don't know that it's going to get any easier.
They were supposed to call us last Friday, and they didn't, and they haven't called us since.
This is a stupid question, but can you get another cheaper used fridge? I mean, maybe that's the thing to do. How long can you live without a fridge?
We're discovering that
as a suburban family in a city.
We're not suburban. We're pretty close.
I'm
We're pretty
sorry.
close. One
as
more
as a downtown core family.
It's hard, and so we've been looking at that, and there's one place because online we're not. You can't buy just a cheap brand new fridge, right? A cheap brand new fridge starts at like $400. But I know that there's a place that they refurbish, kind of like what you were talking about, in Point St. Charles here in Montreal, which is the neighborhood we used to live in. Great, great neighborhood, like working class, Irish as hell. It's even got a specific accent here in town, and there's a place there, and what he does is he refurbishes and sells for affordable. And that may be what I have to just drive over and look at this week at some point. Just see what they got. Like we need a fridge. We need a working fridge. But we thought they were going to have called us back by now, right? If they say, look, we can have the part there by Thursday, I'll just keep buying ice at $8 a day.
I mean, two other ideas that just popped into my head are maybe you get a small 12-volt fridge that might be fun to have.
Well, I have a small. It's my beer fridge that my wife bought me for my.
An idea
we're
number
using that right now.
Is a bar fridge, or the biggest bar fridge you can find. Although I almost think that maybe a 12-volt fridge is an interesting investment, because it's the kind of thing you can run off of auxiliary power in the event that you need to do so.
Right. Black Dog says, we've been building a chicken coop for my mother. My brother is pulling out these 5-foot-long pipe clamps. Don't even know where you found it. Yeah, those pipe clamps are a powerful tool to have. I have 2, and I want to have 10. Scratch and dent store. I haven't seen a scratch and dent store in years. Whoa, we've got 1 minute left. Okay. Mr. Tenenbaum, thanks for hanging out with me and keeping this interesting. For those of you, the 11 of you who are still here hanging with us, thanks for hanging out to the bitter end. I love seeing your names and your conversations scroll up on the side. I'm sorry I was really behind for most of tonight's live stream, but when the conversation's interesting or I start to just blither, it can be easy to let that slip a little bit. Sorry about that. For those of you who may be watching this time shifted to tomorrow or next week or whatever, thanks for spending your time with me after the fact. I still appreciate that. Anyone who may not have, please hit that thumbs up for me. Unless you really hated this, in which case hit the thumbs down. That works too. So everybody, until next week, stay healthy, stay sane, stay happy. Tenenbaum, thanks for hanging out.
My pleasure.
All right, bye, guys.
Hey,